She stood outside an old RV in the middle of a silent desert, clutching a cracked dog tag as if it held all the answers. Behind her, the sun was setting, but her eyes were fixed on a distant past only she could see. If you're someone who appreciates stories about quiet strength and unexpected connections, consider liking this video and subscribing. There's more to come, stories that stick with you long after the screen goes dark. No pressure, just thanks for being here. The desert stretched endlessly. Dry wind carried whispers of forgotten places, dust curling into thin spirals across the cracked ground. Cassie stood outside her RV, boots planted firmly in the dirt. Her right hand gripped a worn dog tag, edges dulled, a crack running right through the middle. Her eyes were fixed far beyond the horizon, where the mountains melted into the fading line between sky and earth. But she wasn't really looking at the mountains. Not now. Not here. The wind howled, but it wasn't just the wind. A pulse, a thump. Somewhere deep inside her memory, rotors, a helicopter. The rhythmic chopping of blades slicing the air. Then, the crack of gunfire, radio chatter layered over it all. Contact left, move, move. A scream, then static. Her grip tightened. Fingernails dug into the cold metal of the dog tag. Her jaw clenched so hard it trembled. The desert was quiet, but her mind wasn't. Not even close. She squeezed her eyes shut for half a second, failing to push it back. When she opened them, they were glassy but sharp. A breath escaped between her lips, dry and cracked like the ground beneath her feet. Her voice barely registered over the wind. Still here. Still fighting. Behind her, the RV sat silent. Its white paint chipped at the corners, but the small American flag sticker by the door fluttered stubbornly. She thumbed the dog tag. Half of it was still whole, the other half fractured, just like her. Cassie inhaled slow, deep. It didn't steady her, it never really did. Her gaze flicked sideways, instinct. A sound, low, a rumble, tires crunching gravel, a vehicle. A battered pickup truck, blue with rust stains along the edges, rolled slowly toward the same lonely patch of cracked asphalt where her RV sat. Cassie's fingers tensed, shoulders squared. Her body shifted not into fear, but into something more familiar. Alert, watching, measuring. Her thumb traced the crack in the dog tag. Her other hand hovered unconsciously near the pocket where years ago a sidearm used to be. The truck coasted to a stop at the far side of the lot. A man climbed out, mid-30s, worn flannel shirt, hands rough. A little girl followed, small backpack slung over one shoulder, her sneakers kicking up little clouds of dust. Cassie's eyes narrowed. Strangers. Out here, strangers always meant one thing. A question waiting to be asked. Are you running from something? Or toward something? She didn't move. Didn't wave. Just watched. The wind tugged at her jacket. The sun dipped lower, and in her chest the crack that no one could see widened just a little more. The old pickup rattled down the endless stretch of cracked desert highway. Dust curled behind it in tired little clouds, fading as quickly as they formed. The engine coughed now and then, not urgently, just like an old man clearing his throat, reminding you it was still alive. But only barely. Inside, Ethan gripped the wheel tight, knuckles pale. His thumb tapped a slow rhythm against the cracked leather, but it wasn't to any song. Just nerves. The fuel gauge needle was buried in the red. Past empty. The kind of empty that made the light on the dash flicker, blink. Then give up entirely. His jaw tensed. He leaned forward slightly as if doing so would somehow coax the truck just a few miles further. Maybe, maybe not. In the back seat, Lily was curled against a pile of worn blankets, her tiny hands tucked beneath her chin. Her mouth hung slightly open, lost in sleep the way only kids can be, completely unapologetically. A battered teddy bear sat wedged between her shoulder and the door. One but an eye, the other long gone. Ethan's eyes flicked between the road and the fuel gauge. No gas stations, no signs, just desert. Miles and miles of nothing that somehow felt heavier than everything. He exhaled slowly, watching the shimmer of heat rise off the asphalt ahead. Come on, just a little further. His voice was low, almost a whisper. Not a prayer. Not yet. Every bump, every rattle made him wince. The old pickup wasn't just a vehicle, it was everything right now. Shelter, home, hope. A sign appeared, not a real one, just a crooked wooden post leaning sideways. Next to it, a pull-off. Gravel. A dying tree offering what could generously be called shade. And a single white RV already parked there. Ethan's grip tightened. Options were gone. Choices were gone. He pulled the wheel gently, guiding the truck off the road. The engine coughed one last time, stubborn, exhausted, then settled into a rough idle. He glanced in the rearview mirror. Lily stirred but didn't wake. Her small face was peaceful. Just a quick stop, kiddo. Then we figure it out. The truck rolled to a stop at the far edge of the lot, as far from the RV as possible. Ethan killed the engine. Silence. Only the wind now, the kind of silence that wasn't empty, but waiting. The wind whispered across the empty rest stop, pulling at scraps of paper, stirring dry weeds along the edges of broken pavement. Two vehicles sat in opposite corners of the lot. A sun-bleached pickup truck, battered but still standing, and a white RV, too clean, too new for this place. Like it didn't belong here. Or maybe didn't want to admit it did. Ethan stepped out first. Boots hit gravel with a dull crunch. He adjusted the collar of his flannel shirt, scanned the horizon like a man looking for anything. A gas station, a miracle, a reason. His eyes flicked just for a second toward the RV. Cassie was already outside. Leaning against the side panel, arms folded, one boot scuffing the dirt in small, restless circles. Her gaze stayed on the horizon, sharp and focused, like someone trained never to look away first. But she noticed him. Of course she noticed. Years of muscle memory didn't forget how to scan, how to clock distance, posture, threat levels. Their eyes met, not directly, just a brief accidental collision of glances. Neutral, calculated. Both pretending they didn't notice. Cassie's fingers instinctively brushed the chain around her neck, the broken dog tag still warm from her skin. Her jaw clenched just slightly. Old habits. Old ghosts. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, forced his eyes down, pretended to check the truck's tires, as if the problem was anything that simple. Silence stretched, not awkward, not yet, just cautious, like two animals circling the same watering hole at dusk, both thirsty, both pretending they're not. Lily stirred in the truck. A small hand pressed against the window. Her sleepy eyes blinked open, scanned the unfamiliar landscape, then landed on the RV, curious but not afraid. Ethan didn't notice her watching. He was too busy pretending not to notice the woman standing 20 yards away, who was also pretending not to notice him. The wind shifted again. Loose dust curled between them as if the desert itself was holding its breath. Neither of them knew it yet, but something had just shifted. Quiet. Small. like the first hairline crack in a wall that's held too long. The desert wind blew steady as Ethan popped open the truck's side panel, pulling out an old foldable camping stove. The hinges groaned in protest like they always did, but it opened held. He dropped it on the crooked picnic table. Same routine. Same way he'd done it 100 times before. Because when you don't have much, routine becomes survival. Lily jumped out of the truck, her sneakers hitting the concrete with a little thud. "I'll get the plates, Dad," she chirped, a little too cheerful, a little too practiced. Her hands dug into the plastic bin they called the pantry. 2 mismatched paper plates, a napkin stack held together with a rubber band, 3 plastic forks, inside the cooler half a loaf of bread, 2 eggs, a packet of sliced turkey, edges curling but still good. Probably. Ethan cracked the eggs into the dented frying pan. The oil hissed. The smell of something warm filled the empty space. "Highway gourmet," he muttered with a smile, not for Lily, not for anyone. Just something he said now. A kind of spell to make it feel less empty. Lily arranged the forks like she'd seen in real diners. Knife on the right, fork on the left. Napkins folded or as close to folded as a 10-year-old could manage. She wasn't pretending this was fancy. She was pretending it was normal. Ethan flipped the eggs, dropped slices of bread onto the side of the pan to toast. The crust burned fast. He didn't care. "Smells good," Lily said, voice light, but her eyes scanned the lot, saw the RV, saw the woman standing there leaning against it, pretending not to look back. Ethan didn't turn. Didn't look her way, but he knew she was watching, just like he was pretending not to. A gust of wind rattled the table. Dust swirled beneath their feet. The desert always did this, reminded you it was bigger than you. Older, harsher. "Dad," Lily asked quietly, Are we doing okay?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He flipped the toast, pressed it down with the back of his spatula. "Yeah," he said finally. "We're doing okay. Not a lie, not the truth, just what you say when there's a kid watching." From the RV, the woman's silhouette shifted, arms crossed, shoulders tense, watching, listening. Maybe, maybe not. The egg sizzled louder. Lily straightened a fork. Ethan wiped his hands on his jeans. "Out here, you learn quick. Nobody's really just passing through." Psh! Bang! The sharp hiss of a tire bursting shattered the desert's quiet. It echoed against the empty hills like a gunshot that didn't belong here. Cassie jerked upright. Her breath caught, frozen somewhere between her chest and her throat. Her fingers reached automatic straight for the side compartment of the RV where the duffel bag always sat. Not thinking. No, this wasn't thinking. This was reflex. This was years of living on hair trigger edges. Her hand gripped metal. Cold, familiar, the matte black frame of her sidearm. Her thumb traced the safety switch without flipping it. Just knowing it was there. Her eyes scanned sharp, rapid. Corners, shadows, reflections. The lot was empty. Still. No threat, no incoming fire, no enemy combatants, but her pulse didn't get the message. Neither did her lungs, or her hands. They shook, not much. Just enough for her to notice. "Clear. You're clear. You're not there," she whispered to no one. But the desert didn't care, neither did her brain. Somewhere in her head the sounds came back anyway. The rotor blades, the popping of distant gunfire, the voice in her ear, "Hold the line, hold the line." She pressed the heel of her hand against her temple, hard, tried to ground herself, sand under her boots, Dry wind against her face, not humid, not jungle, not war. Her gaze flicked toward the flat tire. Rear right, sidewall shredded, probably a rock. Or maybe just the universe's way of reminding her she wasn't done yet. Across the lot, the man by the pickup hadn't noticed. Not yet. Good. Cassie set the gun down, carefully, deliberately. Fingers lingering on the grip a second longer than necessary. A shaky breath in, a slower one out. Just a tire, she muttered, not a mortar. Not this time. Her hands found the dog tag at her neck, the chain broken in one corner held together with a twist of green paracord. Her thumb rubbed the engraving like it might rub a hole through it. Hold the line. The wind shifted, carried the smell of frying eggs, toast burning. Something domestic. Something ordinary. It shouldn't have hit her that hard, but it did. Ordinary, what a strange, impossible thing that was. A sound small. 3 soft knocks. Not loud, not urgent, but enough to cut through the static still buzzing in Cassie's head. She stiffened. Not a threat. Not likely. But the soldier in her didn't believe in luck, only in preparation. Her fingers brushed the dog tag once more before moving to the door latch. A pause, a breath. She tilted the curtain back just a sliver. A kid, small, maybe 7, maybe 8. Ponytail lopsided, sneakers worn at the toes. The girl rocked on her heels, arms tucked behind her back, looking up like the RV was a castle, and she was politely asking the queen for entry. Excuse me, the little voice piped, hesitant but hopeful. Do you, maybe, have ketchup for our eggs? For a second, Cassie just stared, words jammed somewhere between instinct and memory. Ketchup, of all things. Her hand hovered over the latch a second longer than it should. Then click. The door swung open halfway. The dry wind edged in. The girl smiled, wide, unbothered, like asking for ketchup from a stranger in the middle of nowhere was the most normal thing anyone could do. Cassie blinked. Ketchup. The kid nodded. Yeah, we ran out. Happens a lot. She clutched her hands tighter behind her back, but her eyes stayed bright. Open. Something shifted in Cassie's chest. She couldn't name it. Wouldn't try. Hang on, she muttered, turning. She yanked the mini fridge open. Her eyes scanned rows of things she barely touched anymore. Beans, crackers, instant coffee, and there, half a bottle. The label peeling. She grabbed it, walked back to the door, and held it out. Here. The girl lit up like someone had handed her treasure. Thank you, you totally saved dinner. I mean, Brinner. Breakfast for dinner. Cassie's lips twitched, almost a smile. Brinner, huh? Yep. The kid cradled the ketchup like it was gold, then glanced past Cassie's shoulder, curiosity flickering. Do you live in here? Cassie hesitated, eyes softened. Shoulders didn't drop all the way, but maybe just a little. Yeah, for now. That's so cool, the girl beamed. It's like a spaceship. And just like that, the wind didn't feel so sharp. The night had settled quiet. The wind was softer now, brushing against the dry bones of the desert. Cassie sat on the steps of her RV, knees drawn up, a lukewarm mug of instant coffee in hand. Her dog tag twisted between her fingers, worn smooth at the edges. Then light, harsh, white. A pair of headlights swept across the rest stop like searchlights. They cut through the dust, slicing the night in two. Cassie flinched. Her spine went stiff, muscles locked before her mind even caught up. Her breath shortened. No, not here. Not now. The SUV rolled slow, its engine deep, guttural. Not the friendly hum of a traveler, something heavier, calculated. Her eyes locked onto it as it crawled to a stop 30 feet away. Driver's side door cracked open. A boot hit gravel. Then another. Silhouette first, tall, broad-shouldered, lean but not lanky. The kind of posture you don't mistake someone trained, someone dangerous. Cassie's chest tightened. Her grip crushed the mug without realizing. Her vision narrowed, tunneled, framed only by that figure stepping into the light. And for a flash, a brutal, searing flash, it wasn't the rest stop anymore. It was Kandahar, night patrol, the sound of rotors overhead, the smell of diesel and cordite, and him, Kane. The name wasn't a name, it was a scar. A ghost with skin, a mercenary, a shadow who'd once hunted her unit like prey, then smiled when he almost succeeded. Cassie's fingers twitched toward the edge of the RV door, the weight of her sidearm too far inside, too far to reach quickly. Kane stood there just outside the beams, head tilted, hands in his jacket pockets, watching, measuring. Her heart pounded so loud it drowned out the engine rumble. Not here. This isn't the war, not anymore. Except some wars don't sign peace treaties. Cassie yanked the curtain shut. Fast. Too fast. The thin fabric trembled under her grip. She backed away, breath slicing in and out. Palms flat against the RV wall. Her gaze dropped to the floor. No. To the dog tag lying there. One half broken clean down the middle, the chain frayed like old nerve endings. Her lips barely moved, but the whisper escaped anyway. Dry. Ragged. Not him. Not again. The crunch of boots on gravel broke the stillness. Kane stepped fully into the open now, the harsh desert moonlight cutting sharp lines across his face. A lean face, hollowed. Not gaunt from hunger, but sharpened by purpose, by precision. His eyes scanned not lazy, not casual, deliberate, predatory. First the RV. His gaze lingered on the dusty windows. His lips barely moved, but a smirk tugged at one corner. He shifted, turned. Now toward the old pickup truck parked 20 yards across. His boots shifted dust, the sound scraping nerves raw. Ethan stood by the open tailgate, stiff as a fence post. His hands paused mid-motion, caught between unloading a cooler and pretending not to notice. Lily peeked out from behind the truck's open door, fingers curled tight around the edge. Small, curious, unaware but sensing something was wrong. Kids always know when the air gets heavier. Kane's gaze flicked back. RV, truck, man, child, back to the RV. His fingers drummed against his thigh, rhythm steady, calculated, as if mentally sketching routes, angles, exits, threat levels. He sniffed once slow, like tasting the tension in the air. Then quietly, almost conversational, he muttered to no one. Interesting setup you've got here. No one answered. The desert felt smaller suddenly. Ethan's jaw worked tight. His hand slid behind him, not grabbing anything, just testing the distance. The tire iron was in the back seat. Too far. Lily tugged his sleeve, whispered, "Dad." "Who's that man?" Ethan shook his head barely. "Stay behind me, sweetheart. Just stay behind." Kane pivoted on his heels, slow scanning again like a lion deciding which animal limps. His eyes darkened a shade when they passed the RV's cracked curtain. Did he see movement? Did he sense the breathing inside? The smirk returned thinner this time, meaner. "Yeah, thought so," Kane murmured. Then he turned his back on Ethan, not out of dismissal but worse disinterest. His boots scraped toward the RV, hands still loose, not threatening, not yet. But everything about him screamed soon. Inside the RV, Cassie pressed flat to the wall, heart smashing against ribs. Fingers gripped the dog tag like a lifeline. Hold the line. Hold the line. Hold it. The whisper wasn't a prayer. It was a command to herself. Outside, Kane's shadow grew longer as he closed the distance. The curtain snapped shut. Cassie yanked it with a force that surprised even herself. Fabric jittered, the plastic rings clattered against the rod. Her chest rose fast, then faster, breath coming shallow. The world outside vanished, but the echo stayed. His shadow, his voice. His steps pressed into her brain like boot prints on wet sand. Her hands trembled, not from cold, from the fight between muscle memory and survival instinct, from the war still wired into her bones. Fingers dug into her jacket pockets, searching until they closed around cold metal. The dog tag. She pulled it out. Half a tag cracked clean down the middle. The break wasn't new, but it always felt fresh. The edges bit into her palm as she squeezed. Hard, harder. Trying to ground herself, trying to remember she wasn't there anymore. But her mind betrayed her. The ceiling of the RV blurred into flashes of desert, sandbags, barricades, smoke. Not again, not again, not again. The whisper came out broken, no louder than the wind tapping the thin aluminum walls. Her body slid down the cabinet, knees folding to her chest. Breath hitched, one palm braced against the floor, the other locked in a death grip around that fractured tag. Outside, the crunch of boots circled. She shut her eyes, gritted her teeth, felt her shoulder blades press against the thin wall, a wall that felt way too thin to keep anything out. You're not there. You're not. You're here. You're safe. It didn't matter how many times she told herself. Her nervous system didn't speak logic. It spoke adrenaline, hypervigilance, patterns drilled in by years of deployments and ambushes. Not this time. Her lips barely moved, but the vow settled heavy. Inside her grip, the dog tag's broken edge dug deeper. A reminder, a wound, and a weapon. Outside, silence, the worst sound of all. The heavy boots scuffed the gravel. Dust curled around Kane's feet as he strode toward the battered pickup. His shadow stretched long under the flickering street lamp, thin, broken light over an empty rest stop swallowed by desert. Ethan stood up from his foldable chair, subtle but firm. His hand instinctively brushed against his hip, not armed but ready. His eyes flicked once to Lily, who sat cross-legged on the truck bed, fiddling with her sketchbook, oblivious. Kane grinned, a crooked line that didn't reach his eyes. Evening. His voice was too casual, drawn out, sticky like something that wouldn't wash off. Ethan nodded, keeping his tone level. Evening. Kane tilted his head, pretending to scan the horizon. Funny place to park for the night. Guess you folks are lost. Or just stupid. Ethan didn't bite, just resting. Without warning, Kane slammed his open palm down on the truck's hood, metal buckled slightly under the force. A sharp, metallic thud echoed through the stillness. Lily flinched, her pencil snapped mid-line. Cassie, watching through the sliver of her RV curtain, stiffened. Her breath froze mid-lung. Fingers unconsciously traced the cold steel of the rifle propped beside the window frame. Kane chuckled, stepping back half a foot. Relax, just asking directions. His fingers tapped the dent he just made. Tap, 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 like a predator testing the cage bars. Ethan's jaw tensed. Highway runs east. Keep driving. You'll hit it. Kane didn't move, didn't blink. His eyes roamed first the truck, then the gear strapped in the back, then Lily before settling back on Ethan. Sweet setup, family road trip. His smile widened, sickly. Ethan's gaze sharpened. His stance shifted subtly, blocking the line between Kane and Lily. Yeah, just me and my girl. We don't want any trouble. Kane leaned in just enough. See, trouble's funny. You don't always get to pick when it shows up. The air thickened. Even the desert wind seemed to hesitate. Inside the RV, Cassie's hands hovered near the scope. Fingers trembled not from fear, but from the electric charge of fight or flight screaming through every nerve. She steadied her breath. Not yet. Ethan squared his shoulders. Calm, but unmovable. You got your directions. Move on. For a moment, Kane didn't. He let the silence stretch. Let it hurt. Then, like flipping a switch, he shoved off the truck hood with both palms, turned his back, and sauntered away. Yeah, maybe I will. His voice floated back, laced with something darker than words. The crunch of his boots faded, but the tension didn't. Not for 1 second. Cassie slid open the hidden drawer beneath the kitchen counter. Her hands moved on muscle memory, precise, economical, almost mechanical. Cold steel, black matte, familiar weight. She laid out each part of the rifle on the small RV table. Bolt, barrel, scope, silencer. Her fingers trembled not from the weapon but from the roar inside her skull. Breathe. Outside, Kane's voice drifted, warped by the thin RV walls. She couldn't hear the words, didn't need to. His tone was the same, always the same. A rattle before the strike. Cassie clicked the bolt into place, slid the scope into its grooves. Tightened it just enough, not too much. Silencer on. Safety off. She crouched near the narrow window, lifted the curtain just an inch. Her eye met the scope. The world narrowed. Everything else, the peeling wallpaper, the hum of the mini-fridge, the broken dog tag dangling near the sink, disappeared. Just crosshairs now. Dust in the wind. Heat shimmer off the asphalt. Kane's shape sharp defined. Right shoulder, sternum, center mass. Exhale. Her finger hovered above the trigger guard, not on it. Not yet. But her breath caught. Flash not of the rest stop, but a different sky. Black smoke. Gunfire cracking through palm trees. A man, not Kane, someone else standing over a wounded civilian, screaming. No words, just noise. Her hands had gripped this same rifle then. Same scope. Same decision. She blinked. Her lips pressed into a tight line. The memory didn't fade. It layered like transparent film over the now. Her eye flicked back to Kane. His posture shifted, weight on one leg, chin cocked, the exact body language he wore in Kandahar, or Baghdad, or whichever hellhole they'd crossed paths before. She whispered to herself, not again, not today. Her left hand adjusted the focus ring. Clarity sharpened. Kane's fingers tapped the dent in the truck hood, rhythmic, taunting. Her pulse thudded in her ears. Thud, thud, thud. But another sound slipped in, softer, lighter, a child's voice. Lily, somewhere close. Cassie's cheek pressed harder against the stock. Her vision tunneled. She tracked Kane's head, chest, the triangle of vulnerability below the ribs. A bead of sweat rolled down her temple. She ignored it. Hold. Steady. Breathe. And yet, her finger didn't move, because the war in her head wasn't just bullets and targets. It was choices, consequences. It always had been. The silence before the shot was louder than anything. Cassie adjusted her grip, stock firm against her shoulder, crosshairs steady, breath shallow. Outside, Kane's hand lingered on the truck hood. his voice a low, sharp growl, words drowned by the pounding in her chest. His gaze flicked toward the RV, then toward Ethan, a step closer, fingers curling into fists. Decision time. Cassie's finger slid onto the trigger, smooth, familiar, emotion etched into her bones. Exhale. The shot cracked, flat suppressed, but sharp against the emptiness of the desert air. Kane's body jolted. His hand flew to his side too late. Legs buckled, knees hit gravel, face twisted, caught between shock and fury. Then nothing. His body slumped forward, dust blooming around him like a dying breath. Silence swallowed the rest stop. No screaming, no sirens, no chaos, just silence. Cassie lowered the rifle. Her arms trembled, but not from recoil. Her face empty, not relief, not victory, just hollow. Like pulling the trigger had carved something out of her that wouldn't grow back. Her eyes stayed on Kane's motionless body, not blinking, not moving, waiting maybe for the past to crawl out of that corpse. But it didn't. It never does. The dog tag around her neck swung, tapping softly against her chest. Tink, tink. Behind her, the hum of the mini-fridge, the soft creak of metal. Somewhere nearby, Lily's voice drifted too far to catch the words, too close to forget she was there. Cassie closed her eyes, let her head fall against the cold window frame. This wasn't closure. This wasn't justice. This was survival, and survival always comes with a price. Cassie sat slumped against the back tire of her RV, head bowed, shoulders trembling not from cold, from something far deeper, heavier. Her hands were open now, palms up, empty, fingers stained with dust and sweat. The rifle lay a few feet away, forgotten. The desert wind whispered around her, dry, relentless. It carried no comfort, no answers, just silence. A small shadow fell over her, tiny sneakers crunching gravel, a soft presence. Lily, no words, no hesitation. She simply knelt, one hand, small, warm, rested gently on Cassie's shoulder. It wasn't heavy. It didn't try to fix anything, it just was. Cassie didn't look up, couldn't. Her throat locked. Her chest ached in a way no wound ever could. But that hand, it stayed, steady. Fingers squeezed just enough to say, I'm here. No judgment, no fear, no questions, just presence. Cassie's breath hitched. A sob almost escaped, but she bit it down. Instead, a single tear fell, carved a clean line through the dust on her face. She lifted her hand hesitant and placed it over Lily's. Rough skin meeting soft, calloused meeting smooth, soldier meeting child. For a long moment, they just stayed like that. No words were needed. Some storms don't end with thunder. They end with a hand. Ethan didn't say a word. His hands moved on instinct, folding the small camp stove, stacking the dented tin plates, brushing crumbs off the faded checkered tablecloth. The desert wind kept picking at everything, tugging at corners, lifting bits of paper, a plastic fork, a napkin with Lily's doodles on it, a crooked little star. He caught it before it flew too far, folded it, slipped it into his jacket pocket. For some reason, he couldn't throw it away. His eyes flicked once toward the RV. The curtain was still drawn tight. No movement inside. Cassie was still wherever she was, inside her head. And Lily, his little girl, now sat cross-legged near the fire pit, stacking rocks. Her lips pressed tight. Her eyes said more than her mouth ever could. No one spoke of what had happened. No one asked about the gunshot, about the man now slumped far behind the gas station under a thin cover of desert dust. There were no sirens coming, no police, No neighbors peeking through blinds. Out here, the desert swallowed noise, swallowed consequence. Ethan wiped his hands on his jeans. Checked the gas gauge on the truck again, still hugging empty. A sigh slipped out before he could stop it. The sky was shifting, fading from harsh afternoon to something softer. Pink edges curling over the far hills. He walked over to Lily crouched beside her, helped her stack a flat rock on top, careful, steady. For a moment, that was enough. Just hands moving. Quiet. Keeping busy not because there was something to do, but because doing something felt less helpless than doing nothing. Ethan looked up, saw the RV door still closed. He didn't knock. He didn't call. He just let it be. Some wounds don't want company, not yet. Inside the RV, it was too quiet. Cassie sat on the edge of the small bed, staring at nothing. Her fingers rubbed the chain of the broken dog tag, the metal cool and familiar against her skin. A sharp gust rattled the thin aluminum walls. She didn't flinch this time, just breathed. Shallow. Careful. Her eyes drifted toward the overhead cabinet. Hand reached, opened. Inside a stack of old folders, a weathered journal and that paper, that damn paper. She pulled it out, unfolded the creases like muscle memory. Her thumb traced the header, Department of Defense, Certificate of Discharge. The ink was slightly smudged from an old water stain. She'd read this paper more times than she could count, and yet avoided it just the same. Her eyes locked on the sentence stamped in the middle, the one that never stopped echoing in her head, discharged from service. Not from the battlefield in your mind. Yeah, no kidding. The corner of the page was bent the exact spot where her CO had signed it, a signature that felt colder than any bullet she'd ever dodged. Her fingers trembled, not from fear, not from weakness, but from the weight, the invisible kind, the kind no one pinned medals for. She let the paper fall onto her lap, leaned back, closed her eyes. For a few long seconds, there was nothing but the hum of the wind outside, the faint creak of metal, and the distant sound of someone, maybe Ethan, moving quietly out there. Cassie whispered, barely audible. It never ends, does it? Her hand found the dog tag again, thumb tracing the fracture in the metal, a clean crack right through her last name. She stared at it. Then, something shifted. She reached over, opened the side drawer, pulled out an old shoelace, tied it through the broken tag, a rough fix. Ugly, imperfect, but it held. Cassie stood, looked at herself in the narrow mirror by the door. Messy hair, hollow eyes, and that patched dog tag resting against her chest. Her voice was steady now. It holds. And that, for tonight, was enough. The morning sun was softer than usual, the desert wind gentler. Like the world itself was finally exhaling. Cassie stood by the RV door, arms crossed, staring. Not at anything in particular, just the open stretch of dirt and rocks. A quiet sound pulled her gaze down. It was Lily squatting on the ground, carefully picking up stones. Her tiny hands arranged them one by one, forming a simple shape, a star. Crooked, imperfect, but unmistakably a star. Cassie watched. For a long minute she didn't move, just observed. Lily glanced up, their eyes met. No words, no request for help, just a moment of being seen. Cassie took a breath. Her boots crunched softly on the gravel as she stepped closer. She knelt down, her knees stiff, her hands hovered, hesitant, then slowly. They joined in. She picked up a flat stone, set it next to Lily's, then another and another. For the first time in what felt like years, Her hands weren't shaking, not much anyway. The two worked in silence, the sun casting long shadows of their bent forms, one small, one scarred. Lily tilted her head, judging the shape. "This one's kinda crooked," she mumbled. Cassie adjusted a rock slightly. "It's still a star," she said. Lily smiled. "Yeah, still a star." The wind picked up. Cassie brushed hair from her face, leaving a streak of dirt across her cheek. She didn't care. For a brief, impossible second, the battlefield in her mind went quiet. Not gone, not healed. Just quiet. And that was enough. Her fingers pressed the last stone into place. A quiet whisper in her mind echoed not from fear this time, but from something warmer, older. Something that sounded a lot like hope. Hold the line, even if it's just here. Even if it's just for now. Cassie sat back, looked at the little star on the dirt, smiled. Small, honest. Real. The coffee hissed quietly over a tiny propane stove. Ethan stood by his truck, pouring 2 chipped mugs. His eyes drifted, watching Cassie as she sat near the RV bumper, her gaze still on the little stone star she and Lily had just finished. Lily was in the back seat now, doodling shapes into the dusty window glass, humming some tune only kids remember. Ethan cleared his throat, not awkward, not pushy, just enough to break the silence without shattering it. "You know," he started, handing Cassie a mug, "we're headed west, not far. Just west." Cassie took the mug, fingers brushing his just briefly. She didn't respond. Not yet. He tilted his head toward the horizon. The highway stretched like a thin scar across the desert, disappearing into a shimmer of heat and dust. "Not much out there," Ethan said, half smiling. "But it's not back there." His thumb pointed behind him, back toward the direction Kane came from. Back toward everything left undone. Cassie didn't answer. Her hand instinctively reached to her chest. Fingers found the broken dog tag, the one she'd worn since the first deployment. Her thumb traced the crack that split through her name, a fracture that felt familiar. Her eyes lifted, following the line of the road. Endless, quiet, uncertain. Ethan took a slow sip, watched her. "Ain't saying it's safer, or easier, or anything like that," he shrugged. "Just might be different." The wind picked up, rattling the RV door slightly. A loose strap on the mirror flapped, catching her eye, green canvas frayed but still holding. Cassie exhaled, long and steady. She wasn't a woman running, not anymore, maybe. But was she someone going somewhere? Her fingers tightened around the dog tag. The cracked metal pressed into her palm, not painful, but present. Her gaze shifted from the road to Lily's reflection in the truck window, to Ethan, then back to the road. No words. Not yet. She stood, walked to the RV, reached for the keys. The engine coughed, sputtered, then cawed. Ethan didn't grin, didn't cheer. Just tipped his hat back slightly, as if saying good enough. Cassie didn't look at him, not directly, but her foot eased off the brake. The RV rolled forward, slow, steady, pulling alongside Ethan's old pickup. For now. That was her answer, and it was enough. The ignition clicked twice before the RV rumbled to life. Headlights flared against the dusk, carving long shadows across the dusty lot. Cassie sat behind the wheel, hands steady now, or steady enough. Her gaze didn't shift toward Ethan's truck. She didn't have to. The growl of the engine filled the space where words might have gone. Words like, "Yes, okay," or "I'm coming." But none of them fit. None were needed. Ethan stood by the driver's door of his pickup, one hand resting on the side mirror. He nodded, not big, not obvious, just enough. He understood. Lily peeked out from the back window, face lighting up, fingers drawing another little star in the dusty glass. Cassie reached up, adjusted the rearview mirror. And in it for just a second she caught her own eyes. Someone she almost didn't recognize. Someone still here. Her fingers brushed against the dog tag, now tied to the rear view with a strip of green canvas. The metal clinked lightly with each vibration of the RV, a sound that felt grounded. The headlights caught the tiny stone star Lily had made earlier. It sat there, a little crooked, a little imperfect, but still holding its shape. Cassie's foot moved, off the brake, onto the gas. The RV rolled forward, slow but sure, pulling even with Ethan's truck. No window rolled down, no hands waved, just two vehicles, side by side, easing onto the empty highway that stretched west. The road wasn't a promise, it wasn't an answer, but it was forward. And for the first time in a long time, maybe that was enough. The RV hummed steadily as it rolled westward. Cassie's hands stayed firm on the steering wheel, knuckles no longer white, just steady. A soft rattle filled the cabin. The old dog tag swung from the rearview mirror, half-scratched, edges worn. It wasn't alone anymore. Tied next to it was a strip of olive green fabric, frayed at the ends, a piece of an old field jacket, one that had seen sandstorms, mud, and fire. A soldier's color, a soldier's past. The fabric fluttered lightly with every bump, catching beams of sunlight through the cracked windshield. The motion was quiet, almost rhythmic, like a heartbeat or breathing. Cassie adjusted the mirror slightly, not to check the road behind, but to see it, the dog tag, the fabric, the weight of where she'd been, and the choice of where she was going. She didn't smile, not really. But her jaw softened. Something behind her eyes let go just a fraction. In the passenger seat, an empty coffee cup rolled slightly with the motion. Beside it, a folded map, no markings, no plans. Just open. Outside, the desert flattened out into a wide, endless plain. No fences, no walls, just the road. In her peripheral, Ethan's old truck kept pace, windows down, dust trailing behind both vehicles like a pair of fading scars stitched into the earth. Cassie reached out, gently tapped the dog tag with one finger. Clink. The tag spun slowly, catching light, words barely visible under years of wear, but still there. Hold the line, a phrase once meant for battle, now meant for something else entirely. The road stretched ahead, not as an escape, not anymore. It was something else now. A line she was choosing to hold. The dust clung to every surface. The windshield wasn't spared. Lily sat in the passenger seat of her dad's old pickup, knees tucked to her chest. With a small finger, she began tracing shapes into the thin layer of desert dust clouding the window. First a circle, then lines stretched out 5 points. A star. It wasn't perfect. One arm was shorter. The bottom point leaned sideways. But Lily grinned anyway, wiping her fingertip on her jeans. Outside, the late afternoon sun painted the sky a gentle amber, dissolving into the distant hills. In the driver's seat, Ethan adjusted the volume knob. The radio crackled to life, catching a station just strong enough. Fuzzy notes of an old country song filled the cab's soft guitar, steady drums, a voice that sounded like worn leather and Sunday mornings. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Cassie's RV rolled beside them, matching pace. Lily turned her head, pressing her hand against the window, watching the sunlight bounce off the dog tag hanging from Cassie's rearview mirror. The little star Lily had drawn seemed to reflect against the moving RV like it was following them. Ethan glanced over. "You making art back there?" he asked, half a smile tugging at his face. Lily shrugged. "It's just a star." He nodded. "Good thing to have. You know, for direction." The song shifted to the chorus. Something about home or maybe getting lost on purpose. The words didn't matter. The feeling did. The air inside the truck grew warmer, not from the sun, but from the kind of silence that isn't empty. The kind that holds people together without needing anything else. Ahead, the road stretched into gold. Behind them, tire marks trailed like faded footprints slowly disappearing in the wind. And on the dusty glass, that crooked little star stayed. The road was barely a road, just a pair of worn tire tracks cutting through the endless sand and sagebrush. Ethan's old pickup rumbled forward, its engine humming low. Beside it, Cassie's RV rolled in steady rhythm, tires crunching against gravel and dust. From a distance, the two vehicles moved like slow ships crossing an ocean of gold, side by side, never too far, never too close. The desert sky was on fire now. 1,000 shades of red, orange, and deep violet spilled across the horizon, bleeding into the edges of the earth. The sun sank lower, throwing long shadows that stretched, bent, and disappeared into the hills. Behind them, dust rose in soft plumes, thin, fragile, yet somehow stubborn. The trails twisted together in the wind, fading, then forming again. Like memories that never settle but never fully leave. In the cab, Ethan glanced to his right. Through the hazy windshield, he caught a glimpse of Cassie's silhouette, one hand steady on the wheel, the other resting on the edge of the window. Her dog tag swung slightly from the mirror, catching bits of dying sunlight. For a brief second, their eyes met, not fully, just enough. A small nod. Nothing more. No words. Lily, from the back seat, leaned her head against the window, watching the RV's side mirror flash with light as it caught the sun. Her dusty little star on the window was still there, faint but visible. The road hummed beneath them. Steady. Quiet. Uncertain but forward. As the horizon swallowed the last slice of sun, the dust trails behind both vehicles thinned, then slowly disappeared as if the past knew. It wasn't needed anymore. Just the road ahead, and who was willing to stay on it. The morning sun had a softness to it. Not harsh, not heavy, just warm enough to melt the sharpness left by the night. Back at the rest stop now, just an empty patch of desert, the small star made of stone still sat exactly where Lily had built it. A gentle wind had shifted one pebble slightly out of place. It wasn't perfect anymore. One arm of the star looked crooked. A piece leaned too far to the right, but somehow it felt even more real that way. More honest. The sunlight caught on the rough edges of the stones, making them glimmer, not like gold, not like something precious, but like something that mattered. Something made with care. Something left behind not because it was broken, but because it was meant to stay. A single jackrabbit hopped by, paused for a moment, twitched its nose, and then moved on. Footprints were fading now, Cassie's, Ethan's, Lily's. The wind was doing its quiet work, smoothing them out, erasing sharp lines, softening sharp memories. But the star stayed, a little off-center, a little imperfect but whole. And under the glow of that morning light, it didn't seem like something forgotten. It looked exactly like what it was, a marker, a reminder that someone was here, that they stood their ground and chose to keep going. Inside the RV, the world felt quieter. The hum of the engine, the gentle rattle of dishes in the cabinet, the soft whistle of wind sneaking through the edges of an old window frame. And there, swaying gently from the rearview mirror, was Cassie's dog tag, no longer broken, no longer just a piece of the past, tied back together with a strip of olive green fabric, the kind used for field repairs or tourniquets or anything a soldier had to make work when nothing else would. The metal glinted in the morning light, scratched, worn, scarred, but still here. And now something new had been etched into its surface, not deep, not perfect, just enough for someone to read if they cared to look close. Hold the line until it matters, a phrase that meant more than any medal, more than any speech. It wasn't about winning, it wasn't about fighting, it was about standing. Standing through the chaos, through the noise, through the doubt, holding the line not for glory but for the simple, quiet truth that sometimes the line was all there was between falling apart and holding together. Cassie glanced at it as she drove, her eyes softer now, less guarded, less hunted. She wasn't running anymore. The dog tag swung gently, catching the light like a compass that didn't point north, but pointed back to something even better. A choice, a line, and the quiet, steady courage to hold it. Cassie's hands rested steady on the steering wheel. The engine hummed beneath her. The desert stretched endlessly ahead, a ribbon of cracked asphalt cutting through the sands. She wasn't gripping the wheel like before, not like someone afraid it might slip away. Just holding it. Firm. Steady. The RV rumbled forward, tires crunching over the loose gravel, kicking dust into the morning air. In the rearview mirror, the rest stop grew smaller. The little stone star that Lily built was barely a dot now, but it was still there, sitting quietly, refusing to be forgotten. Cassie glanced to her side. Ethan's pickup drove alongside her. Lily's tiny hand waved from the passenger window, tracing invisible shapes in the wind. Cassie smiled just barely. Not the smile of someone fixed, not someone healed, but someone moving forward. The dog tag swung gently. The sunlight hit it, and for a second the words carved into it shimmered like a promise whispered just loud enough for the universe to hear. Hold the line until it matters. She wasn't running anymore. Not from the past, not from the noise inside her head, not from who she was or who she had become. No. This wasn't running. This was choosing to go forward, even if the road was uncertain, even if the map didn't say where it led. And maybe, just maybe, that was the only difference that ever really mattered. The camera pulled back slowly. The RV and the pickup grew smaller, their dust trails weaving together like two threads stitched into the fabric of the earth. Ahead, the horizon, painted in soft golds and burnt oranges. A sky too big to hold on to, but big enough to drive toward. And beneath it all, the sound of tires, of engines, of people who'd lost things, but still chose to keep going. Not because they were unbroken, but because even broken things can still move forward, and that was enough. Soft wind brushes across the desert as morning sunlight spills warmly over the small star made of stones. It's imperfect, with one piece slightly out of place, yet the shape still holds. It's never really broken, just waiting for someone to believe it still matters. Inside the RV, a broken dog tag swings gently from the rearview mirror. Newly engraved words scratched by hand read, "Hold the line until it matters." The RV hums to life, dust swirling behind its tires as it rolls forward. She's not running anymore, not from her past, not from herself. This road is not an escape, it's just the next mile forward. The camera pulls back to reveal the RV and an old pickup truck driving side by side. Two dust trails stretch toward the horizon where the morning sun rises golden steady, full of promise. If this story touched something in you, maybe share it. Maybe someone you love needs to hear it today. And if you like stories about second chances, quiet strength, and the roads we choose, you're welcome to stay. Hit like and subscribe. We have more stories waiting just down the road. The sound of the wind fades softly into silence.